Good day, everyone. Welcome to the second part of our project, or let's say the beginner part of our project. Welcome to the beginning part of our project. And in here, we are going to configure our data source needed for our project. So this is where we're going to be doing our environmental setup. We want to configure all the important things that are needed for our end-to-end project. So where am I? I'm currently on portal.azure.com. And the reason why I'm here is because if you remember, we're ingesting data from the Bing News API. So I'm going to set up the API resource from here. So how are we going to start? So where I'm going to start from is I'm going to start by creating a resource group. So in Azure, you always, I think it's best practice to always create a new resource group per project. So for this project, although it's just the API I need to configure, I would want to make sure that I have an appropriate resource group set up for it. So where do I go to? I'm just on the home page. I'm not going to go to create resource. I'm just going to go to the shortcut resource groups, and let's click on it. So as I clicked on resource group, you can see here that I've already configured the resource group before, so I'll create another instance of it. So I'm going to go to create new resource group because I want to create a new resource group for the project. So here we are, create new resource groups. I'm already seeing an error. Okay, I haven't done anything yet. So what's the subscription details for your resource group? So remember, here is where we're going to set up what's necessary for our Bing API to work. So what subscription? Very important. I'm using Azure for students, but if you are using any other type of maybe if you paid for Azure or you're using any type of subscription, you have to properly set it up here. And yes, Azure for students, what's the resource group name? What's the resource group name? I would give it Bing, let's say Bing data project. Bing data project, and you can see an error. So I'll give it Bing underscore data project. Bing data project resource. Okay, so it asks us for our region details. And one thing to note about this is that you need to always choose where is closest to you in real life. Like where is closest to your actual location. So I'm currently in Nigeria, Africa, and if I look through here, I notice the closest to me will be South Africa. Where is it? I probably passed it right. So let's type. Okay, I've seen it. South Africa North. That's closest to me. And I'm going to click on next. The tags. What tags am I going to give the project? So for the tags, it's just like basically what is the key value pair it gives to your project just for the sake of identification. So you could create tags based on maybe who's the admin of your Azure portal, or what's the organization's name. It's quite free. So I've created a tag before, and the name of the tag was created by, so key value pairs, just like in Python, like dictionaries, created by what's the value, Austin text. So I've created a tag and I'm supposed to go to review and create and finish configuring this my project. Oh, validation passed. Let me go back to basics. I think I skipped process here just in case. Okay, I didn't. I didn't. So let's go to review and create. Just one more configuration. Okay, everything's fine here. Everything's fine. So let's go to review and create again. Sorry about that. And yeah, we can click on create now. I think everything has been set up properly to create. So it's validating what we're trying to create. Let's give it like a few seconds. And yeah, our Bing data project source as resource has been created. Excuse me. So our resource has been created for a project. It's not this one. Remember, this one I did before, I configured before. This is what we're going to be using, Bing Data Project Resource. So let's enter our resource group environment. Let's let's try to actually make use of it and do one or two things necessary for our project. Okay, okay. We have a lot of interesting things, and to not keep ourselves distracted, let's go to create. So we are within the resource group environment, which is the Bing Data Project Resource. You can see here, we're within the environment. So let's click on create. Oops, sorry about that. Let's click on create here. So within the resource group, let's create something. So we are being redirected to the marketplace. I don't want to see this. So this is where we are going to look for, if you remember, we're going to be using the Bing API. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to access the latest news going on based on whatever parameter we set in whatever location we're interested in. Yeah. So I'm going to look for the Bing search. Bing search. Oh, Bing search. Okay. It's actually, let's click on Bing search. And the specific one that we actually need for our project is the Bing search version 7. So if you're here, we just created a resource group. And I don't know if I specified it. The way I personally go for with working with resource groups is I create one resource group for every project, just for everything to be more arranged and to avoid myself of confusion. And where we are now is we're trying to pick the appropriate Bing API that will help us the most for our project, and we're going to be using the Bing search version 7. So let's click on it and see what's going on. So Bing search version 7, seeing the ratings, overview, there are different plans and pricings towards using this. But let's not be concerned with that for now. Let's click on create. Okay. So here we are trying to configure the Bing API properly. So the basics, the subscription, very important. And if you remember, I'm using Azure for students. The resource group is a Bing data project resource, all with underscores in between them. So here we have to, what's the name? We need to give it a folder naming instance, and I will call this Bing underscore search project API. Let's say API for projects. API for projects. Okay. What region? So luckily for us, we don't have to worry too much about the region, just like when we're creating resource group. It says, yeah, this is a global resource that works across Azure region. So we don't have to worry about that. So what we have to worry about or what we have to pay attention to at this point is what is our pricing tier. So depending on your pockets, you need to be very selective when it comes to this, especially for someone living in Africa, you're going to pay in dollars. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to choose the cheapest one, or I'm going to choose the free one, and I'm actually going to choose not the S2 or S3. I'm going to choose the F1. So with the F1, you can have 3 API calls per second and 1K API calls per month. I'm going to choose this, and specifically I'm going to choose this because it's free. And just in case you might be doubting, you can confirm by just view further pricing details to carry us to a new tab. Yes, view further pricing details. Let's scroll all the way down. So with the Bing search API, you can see the Bing image search, the Bing news search. We're trying to ingest news data, so that's the one we're going to use. But let's go all the way down. I just want to show us different pricing tiers also, so you can see, you can confirm that the F, or is it called F1, is a free tier. So F for free. F1 is a free tier. So you can use the Bing image search, Bing news search, which is what we're going to do. So let's focus on this and let's come back. So If you just want to understand more about the pricing, so you can see $25 per 1,000 transactions for the S1 a lot, and this can be very useful, um, especially if you're working with a large organization that has the pockets. But yes, let's continue. So I think we're done here. Okay. One thing I almost missed this terms and conditions. I almost missed this terms and conditions. So always make sure to confirm that you understood the terms and conditions, because actually, if we had clicked on review and create without scrolling down and seeing that, even if we had configured this Bing API resource properly, we would have to come back to the basics. So agree with their terms and conditions. So I already have a clue of the terms and conditions. If you want to know more about it, you can go ahead. So let's go to next. So not review and create. So it also asks us for the key value pair, so the tag. Basically just a identification way to identify your project more, to create it by Austin text. So I'm just using what I've already configured prior. So I'm going to click on next again. Okay. So from here, I can click on create directly. So if I click on create, it's deploying. Give it a few seconds. It's submitting the deployment. And let's see our resource group API in action. So deployment still in process, but we're almost there. So our deployment has been able to complete successfully. So deployment Microsoft Bean Search was so this resource group we created has been successful. I think we need to be happy about that. So our subscription Azure for Student, the resource group that we put this in is Bing Data Project Resource. So this is very good. Let's go to resource. Okay. This is very good. So we can just see a few details about resource all the way here. Bing Search API for projects. And we can see an overview, the pricing tier, or using the free tier. So all this is all good. All right. So at this point in time in our project, we've been able to create a resource, and we've been able to configure our Bing Search API that we're going to use for our data ingestion. Remember, we're going to get data, the latest news data from the Bing Search API, and that's what we've been able to configure on the Azure portal. And one thing to note is, I think we've been able to do the majority of the work in terms of on the Azure workspace or on the Azure portal. What I mean by this is, if you remember in our project architecture, we said, okay, we're going to get some data from the Bing Search API, and or which will be configured in the Azure portal. And yes, so what I'm saying is that the next steps in our end-to-end data engineering projects, the next couple of steps, the next couple of processes or procedures will be done fully on the Microsoft Fabrics platform. So the only thing we're going to do here now from now is connect to this Bing Search API through the endpoints, like the keys and yeah, to the keys endpoint and things like that. So that's how we're going to be connecting to this Bing Search API to the endpoints, the keys and the endpoint location, whatever. So not whatever, but yeah, you get the idea. So what we're going to do from here on, from this point, yes, since we've been able to properly configure our Bing Search API, remember we're going to be using this Bing Search API for data ingestion. This is where we're going to get our data from. So let's head over to our Power BI workspace. So that's app.powerbi.com. And when you go to app.powerbi.com, you're able to get to this Power BI environment. And I like to note that what happened before this is that I've already configured Fabrics. I'm on a free trial, Power BI free trial, Fabrics free trial. I've been able to configure Fabrics. So actually, if I go all the way down to this Power BI icon and click on it, you'd see, oh, Microsoft Fabric. So this is not just the normal Power BI. This is the Power BI under Microsoft Fabric. So this is the Power BI component of Microsoft Fabrics. So or Microsoft Fabric, excuse me, I keep saying Fabrics. Um, yeah, so this is the Power BI component. And if you go all the way down, you see things like databases. I will not focus on that. I'll focus on the things I mentioned in our project architecture, which are things like the factory. So you can see Fabrics has a data factory. It's not the Azure Data Factory. Things like I'm going to be using engineering tool, data science tool, and which other thing? Data activator. But yes, this is an interesting thing to note about. These are different components. If I click on data factory, you see a different kind of workspaces there, because they function differently and things like that. So yeah, so let's similar to how we did when we were configuring our Bing API in the Azure portal, we always need to anytime we're working with all these components of Microsoft Fabrics, we need to set up workspaces. So I'm going to click on workspace and you see I have different workspaces already set up. So I have an end-to-end project workspace here. I have a real-time test. I have Tommy. So always configure a workspace properly. So similar to the resource group, for me, I always make sure we can have a workspace per project. And actually, I'm able to do this easily because I'm the admin. I'm the Fabric admin. So if I go to workspaces, you'd see that, I have different workspaces and I'm able to easily set workspaces on my Microsoft Fabric, Power BI platform, and etc. because I am the admin. So being an admin makes it easy for you to have full permissions to create workspaces, set up workspaces, etc. So let's create a new workspace. So click on new workspace. We have a lot of things here. You can give it a name, you can give it a description, a domain, which is quite optional. You can give it a workspace picture, to identify a workspace. So for us, I would say let's call this workspace end to end end project workspace. So end to end, let's say data engineering project. So I'll say DE project workspace. And I mean, it's always good to know what's going on in this advanced area. So actually, this is the licensing. So for me, I mean, there are different licensing here. You can be a premium user, you can be a pro user. For me, if you remember, I'm on a free trial. So I'm using a free trial, and which will be available for 60 days. And yes, I think I'm done with everything I need to do on this end, so I can go ahead and click on apply. So as I clicked on apply, it directly took us to our end-to-end DE data engineering project workspace. So I've been able to set up a separate workspace, which we are going to be using for our projects subsequently. At this point, our workspace has been created, and this is where we are going to run our end-to-end project, our end-to-end data engineering project. All the steps are going to be run within our workspace on Microsoft Fabric. So, in terms of projects, in terms of steps, remember we have the data engineering step, the data science step where we do some sentimental analysis. Everything is going to be done in our workspace. And I just like to mention that this workspace, being able to create a workspace, is due to the fact that I'm an admin, and as an admin, I could also, it depends on whatever organization you're working with. So it's possible you might not be an admin, and it's possible you might not have permissions to create a workspace. In that kind of situation, you could talk to your admin, and your admin can grant you the privilege to do that. At this point in time, um, when we've created our workspace, we will now need to configure our lakehouse database where we're going to be loading our data to. So to do this, we're actually leaving the Power BI component and we're going to be looking or entering the data engineering component. And yes, so as we enter the data engineering component, uh, everything changes. We see the kind of, a new different environment. And what we want to do here is we want to set up our lakehouse database, which we're going to be loading our data we ingest from the Ming API tool. So we're going to be using our lakehouse database for data loading. So let's set it up. It's as easy as just clicking on the lakehouse. So this icon, I see the name Lake House. So I just clicked on it, and let's give it a few seconds. Yeah, so what is our lake house name? I'll say Bing Lake database. So Bing Lake DB. So let's create our lake house database. Our lake house. Let's create our lake house. It's taking some time, but it will load and we'll be able to make use of it. So yeah, it's been loaded, it's been created, and if you look at what's going on here, you see things like tables, see things like files. You can upload files from your local machine. You can play around with sample data. You can get access to shortcuts from, you know, um, Azure. Yeah, you can work with the new data flow. Like, there's a lot of things you can do with this lake house or in your lake house. And at this step in our process, we've been able to properly configure our environment. So what we did, if you remember, we set it up, we set our Bing News API up from the Azure portal. And after we were able to do that, we came here and created a workspace and we created our lake house, which is going to be used for data loading or which our data may be loaded to. And that's when it's directly ingested from the Bing News API. So at this point in time, we're done with environmental setup, with the environment setup. So I'll see you guys in the next section.